Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a fresh copy of the retail version of Fall of the Mountain King, an area majority game where gnomes are attacking you and your fellow trolls, and the game is published by Burnt Island Games. Here we have the board, which is set up. Gnomes are already here and ready to attack. They come in through random gates. This is done by using these gate cards. Each player will control groups of trolls shown by their color. As you might know, I play green, so let's focus on the green. You have your trolls and then 5 champions that can be gained throughout the game. And you'll start with 1 starting champion. You can get 2 cards and choose one to keep. And you will take the matching shown letter on the card and slide it on your champion Meeple if it chose to do so. Now you can track your champion when it's on the board. And you have a starting Ancestry card. You will add more cards to this, giving you possible actions to take on your turn. And lastly, you have a player board that tracks your actions. Players take turns setting up their layers on the board. You choose a spot starting with the start player and place your layer token on the matching spots, and then place 3 trolls on each token. And then you get to place an additional troll on a cavern where there is no gnome and adjacent to each of your layers. And your champion can go on one of these cavern spaces as well. The game is played in 3 waves. Each wave has a build your ancestry phase, to then battle, and then the end of the wave, and lastly the refresh phase. You are trying to gain the most honor in the game to win. When building your ancestry, you will use your starting ancestry card and build out from it, placing your cards on top of your previously placed cards, building out to form a network no greater than a 6x6 grid. You will do this by drawing 4 cards, choosing one to add. This card must cover at least 1 quadrant, but can cover more. You can never cover an elder symbol. Cards cannot be rotated and should stay orientated, matching your starting card. You will always have to add cards, even if covering up is something you don't want to do. You will place your first card, then pass your cards to the left. When you receive 3 cards from your right, you will choose one and place it on there. You will continue to do this, adding 3 total cards, and the last card is discarded. This ancestry phase can be very strategic, so try to plan as much as possible, but sometimes you'll get stuck with cards where you might have little choices. Knowing what symbols do also should be known before doing this so that you can form a strategy. This symbol is to advance. This will help you move your trolls around on the map. This symbol is bolster. It will let you add trolls from your supply onto the map. This is influence. It will let you gain influence with the champions so that they will join your team so you can gain more of them. This is the gnome, and you will move the pawn on the gnome wheel to gain its benefit. This is wild. It can count as advance, bolster, influence, or gnome symbol, whatever you want, and a pair of them can act as a supply symbol. This is the supply symbol. It's an obstacle on your ancestry, but it also gives you an extra turn in each wave. This is an elder symbol. It is also an obstacle, as meaning it's just going to get in the way, and it can never be built over, and it will score honor at the end of the game. Once your ancestry is placed, you will count your supplies to know how many turns that you get for that wave, and you will place your marker on the wave number you're performing, and then for each supply symbol on your ancestry, you will move it 1 for each of those. Now, from where your token sits, you will gain desperation tokens for each space to the right of your token that lists a +1 desperation symbol. Now it's battle time. Players take turns using supplies tracked on their supply boards to either take 2 weak actions or 1 strong action until all players have used all of their actions or all their supplies. When choosing weak actions, you will place a cube on any symbol on your ancestry board that doesn't have a number on it. Essentially, it's a 1 of that type of action. And you will then do the same for the second weak action. This is pretty easy to plan for, but doing this action can help you set up for stronger actions later in the wave, and you probably want to try to perform more strong actions than you can weak actions. Also, desperation tokens can be used to boost the power of a weak action by 1 per spent token. Strong actions is what you want. A strong action is either choosing a symbol with a 2 on it, you'll place a cube on this spot and perform the action, Or the other way to perform a strong action is by covering up a cluster of the same symbol. This is multiple adjacent symbols of the same type. And these symbols can be weak or strong in any combination as long as they form a contiguous group. And you will place cubes on all those and take the action equaling the combined value of all the symbols that you covered. You do not have to cover or use all of the symbols, and you can use a wild in addition when forming your group. Now, you can also cluster through covered symbols. Covered symbols with a cube on it creates a link between other separated symbols, making them adjacent. So as you take your turns, you can form connections that you can later use to create powerful turns that weren't available to you at the beginning. When taking a strong action, you can also spend one or more extra supplies to add power to that action. For each supply spent, you will move your marker back and add a power of 1 to that action. This is useful if you realize that you have more turns available, then you can make good use of them. So again, advance is moving your trolls. When moving, if you have trolls in adjacent caverns, you can form a network where with one movement, you can move a troll from one end of the network to the other end, moving the one space to a new cavern you don't have your trolls in. So the distance is not relevant. Your power only determines how many trolls you can move. When moving, you never fight other players' trolls, and you want to try to outnumber them, as it will help you with your scoring at the end of the wave. If you advance into an overrun cavern with gnomes, then a battle does happen. You will finish moving as many trolls as you would like to that location before starting the battle. But when ready, you will flip over the gnome token to show its number, which can be numbered 1 through 3. If the number of your trolls equals or exceeds the combined total gnome strength, you are victorious, and you score honor equal to the strength of the defeated gnomes. You will also gain 1 vote in the clan, matching the cavern where the battle occurred. The defeated gnome tokens are placed by the gnome wheel, and these defeats will anger the gnomes and make the future more intense. The wheel pawn is moved for each gnome token defeated. If the token passes a certain line, it can activate a breach and add more gnomes to the board. If you fail your attack, you will then return your trolls to one of your layers. If there is only one gnome in the cavern, the gnomes entrench, adding a second one to the cavern. If a cavern at the start of your action had at least one troll or gnome in it and was not controlled by you, but is now controlled by you at the end of your action, you will seize control of it, gaining 1 vote from the cavern's clan. Bolster adds more of your trolls onto the board, and you are limited to your supply, so plan accordingly. Influence lets you add your influence disc equal to that action's power on one of the champions displayed out. The first time a champion is influenced, you can gain 1 bonus influence. Champions will be rewarded to the player with the most influence at the end of the wave. Winning a champion will give you votes in its clan, it'll give you that champion's ability, and it will give you an extra pawn to place onto the board. Let's check out some of these awesome champions that you can take advantage of. This one lets you cover a bolster action symbol after performing a strong action of any kind to add 2 trolls to one of your layers. This one, when attacking, acts as 2 trolls. Here, twice per wave, you can pull 1 troll from an adjacent cavern into the cavern with this champion. This champion scores points at the end of the wave. It'll gain 1 honor for each troll in the domain this champion occupies. And then the champions for wave 3 are different. Here you can gain 2 honor for every clan where you are not the vote leader. This one is placed in an empty great hall, and each non-champion troll in the cavern adjacent to the hall gains 1 honor for its owner. These champions in Wave 3 just lead to more honor rather than giving abilities, as that focus changes at that part of the game. Next, the Gnome action. This action will give you unexpected actions, dispensable hidden information about Gnome strength, and where they will strike next. But too much movement on this track will trigger a breach, adding more gnomes to the map. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail, but when doing this, you will scout and look at one of the gate cards and look at one of the gnome tokens' strength on the map. If you pass the tripwire, then you will trigger those actions. And then there are effects that you can land on. You can gain bolster action and influence. You can gain honor, or you can move trolls. You will only perform the action that you land on to the power of how many movement that you moved. Players will continue taking turns trying to form strong actions on the Ancestry cards, moving better connections to take advantage of them until all players have no more turns left, and the wave ends. At the end of a wave, a gnome is added to any cavern with one gnome in it. Invasions then occur. Each gate card is resolved where it shows a domain. The number of invading gnomes are added and the swarm token is moved to the domain swarm point. Gnomes follow a path of least resistance and it will attempt to move into the easiest cavern that it can reach. So then invasions will occur for each gate. With all the invasions, trolls are bound to fall. If you have trolls and a champion in the same location where a troll is to be removed, you can choose which one that you want to remove. A troll is removed and returned to your supply, while when a champion falls, it's moved back to one of your layers. The first troll to fall in each invasion earns the first fallen bonus of that wave and will score more points than the subsequent trolls that gain 2 honor each. Then champions are awarded to the player whose token is highest on that card. If no player has influence on a card, then it's discarded. You gain votes in that champion's clan, and if you have markers on cards where you don't win, then you will gain the consolation reward of a vote in the champion's clan or honor equal to the number of yellow lines your disc has passed on its track. If you win the champion, you will slide the letter code token into the champion Meeple and add it on the board to a cavern that you dominate. Some champions offer an instant ability, and others give a passive ability, and others give an ability that can be used a certain number of times during a wave. Next, waves are scored, and waves 1 and 2 are scored the same, with wave 3 being scored differently. In 1 and 2, you will go from domain to domain, seeing how many caverns you control. You score 6 honor for the first cavern that you control in a domain, and 2 honor for each additional cavern in the same domain. If you score at least 1 cavern in a domain, then you will lose 1 honor for each overrun cavern in that domain. After doing this for all domains, you will refresh the game by shuffling gate cards and laying out new ones, placing out new champion cards. All cubes from players' Ancestry cards are gathered up back into their own supplies, and the starting player passes the start player marker clockwise, and a new wave now begins. At the end of wave 3, you will score for control of the most caverns surrounding each great hall, for each elder symbol in your ancestry, and for clan votes. The player at that point with the most honor wins the game. And well, that's Fall of the Mountain King, and the game is like its mechanics. There is a lot going on, and although the main goal seems pretty simple, there are a lot of choices that really can affect if you gain honor doing one thing compared to another. During the game, you are setting up for the long game, but you're also setting up and playing the short game. The long game is gaining majority of the caverns surrounding great halls to get those points, and for placing ancestry cards that have elder symbols, which take up spots that could help you take actions during the game, and by doing the multiple different things to gain votes for different clans, and each of these clans also might award different amount of points. So stir that into your strategy porridge there as well, and short game is spreading out your trolls on the map as many different domains as possible. Your trolls will fall, so being the first to fall in each invasion might be worth it. And just remember, you only get those points for being the first to fall during the invasion part of the game. But you know how the gnomes think, and they will head for the least path of resistance. And so you can sprinkle some more of that strategy seasoning as well, because you can position yourself pretty easily to be the first to fall if you want. And now the next thing I want to talk about is the champions, and investing in those will not only give you some fun, awesome abilities to help you in the game, but it'll help with the votes in those clans, and it give you more trolls to add onto the board. And tell me this, who can resist getting something special in the game and doing something that no other player can do? I mean, I want to get as many of those that I can when I'm playing the game, but this depends on placing Ancestry cards with the influence action on them down. But doing that also might make it so that you have less bolster actions on there, so less guys on the map, or less movement, and so you can't spread your way on the map like you might want to claim those end of wave 1 and 2 points that you might be able to if you didn't. So the strategy begins with placing your cards down, but it's not the only thing. You can make some mistakes or not so good moves on this and still survive, because the way that you perform your actions might even be more important than what the cards you place down are to a degree. I mean, you can really set up your turn to take advantage of every icon on your Ancestry card, but your actions can be limited onto what actions that you place and perform. I wouldn't call this game a simple game, and I also wouldn't call it a complicated one, but strategy-wise, there is a lot going on, and you can find many strategic choices throughout the game. I'm sure there is more than what meets the eye as well, so there is some good depth in the game. The components are pretty amazing, even for the retail version that I have here. I think they did a great job making certain components the way they are. When I compare the deluxe version to the retail version that I have, I really only wish I had maybe the game trays and the awesome first player hammer thing. Besides that, the retail version is really solid component-wise. Anyways, this can be a very strategic area majority game that requires planning, but also quick thinking or reactions to possible actions. You aren't attacking other players, but still competing with them, and the complexity is that higher to medium weight. And the theme makes this Euro game far from dry, but exciting, engaging, and dynamic. So ready your trolls with your family and friends in Fall of the Mountain King by Burnt Island Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table. All right, I'm going to head them off here, and then I'm going to strengthen over here. I need more trolls over here. Oh man, how are we going to do this?